Hi, everybody, and good evening. It's Caroline Swick from CarolineSwick.com, and tonight we are here to all talk about some of your questions regarding the Busy Girls 6-week plan to balance and fulfillment, my online group program, which is running for the third time, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm so happy that so many of you have showed interest in finding out a little bit more about the course over the last couple of days. There are not too many people signed on with us live, but we have a bunch of questions that were sent to me earlier. I know with the time differences, it's sometimes tricky to get everybody on board for the same time. But anyway, I would love for you to get really comfortable and maybe grab yourself a water or a cup of tea or get into a really comfy seat, because we're not going to talk for a crazy long time, even though, of course, I want to answer all of your questions. But being comfortable at this time of the day, I think, can't hurt anybody. All right, so we'll jump right into it. And if you have any questions about anything that comes up for you as we go along, you can type your questions into the chat box, and I'm happy to address them as we go. Okay, so question number one was, I'm going on vacation, and what happens if I miss 1 week in the Busy Girl program? 1 week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. I've had people in the course who had to miss 3 weeks, who were traveling for work and going on vacation and that kind of thing. And I just want you to know that there's no worries at all. I really don't want anyone to be stressed about time and squeezing in the whole program at once, or even in the 7-week frame that I've mapped out of it, because there's one implementation week in the middle. What I've found from previous participants is that they go over the material a couple of times, like later on even. So like now I'm offering the course for the third time, and I have some people who have been in the course 3 times. And the good thing is that you can actually take it for free whenever it is offered again. So you have a lifetime subscription to the course, and there's always new things that we can learn. I think barely ever, does life present us with an important lesson only once until we get it. We typically have to learn it a couple of times. And so that's why, I make all of the material accessible to you throughout the course and way beyond the course. So I actually have never taken it down. So people who sign up for the course in spring 2014 have had all of 2014 to access all of the materials, all of the bonus programs, the expert interviews, all of that stuff. This course is really not meant to make you more busy. So if you're traveling because that would obviously defeat the purpose of the Busy Girls 6-week plan to balance and fulfillment. So if you're traveling for a week or 2 and, you can just go at your own pace. There's an implementation or a catch-up week built in after the 3rd week, and all of the video and lectures and expert interviews, exercises, bonus materials, all of those will stay available to you throughout the program and way beyond. So, I have never taken them down. So women who signed up, again, for the course for the first time around over a year ago were able to access it again, have been part of 3 different groups, which is so nice. And all of them say, I keep learning about something different, like something that wasn't relevant, didn't really stand out to me the first time around. Now I'm ready for it. And I just love that, because, we're all works in progress and we're growing through these experiences. And this is really what this course is meant to do. It's supposed to be really like a toolbox for you and a resource for you that you can use over time. So, I know it can feel a little bit stressful if you know that you're going to miss a week in advance, or miss a week here and there, but I really don't want anyone to think of timing as a preventing factor, because when in life do we ever just have 6 weeks to do nothing but focus on a course like this? It just doesn't happen. It's not realistic. And that's why I designed the course again with implementation and catch-up weeks, and why I leave all of the materials up for your use as long as you need it. So the verdict is that don't worry about missing a week or even 2 or 3. So, and the other thing is, I had someone email me that they would have to miss the very first week week 1. And if that's the case, I really encourage you to sign up by the end of this week and, use your early bird special code, Busy Girl Love, and I will send you week 1 materials a week early. So you can use all of next week to do week 1 stuff, and that way you're actually ahead, and not quote unquote behind. All right, so that's just as a little nugget, if that's something that you've been thinking about or struggling with. If you can't make week 1, there's even a more special way of solving that problem. All right, so the next question I got was, how exactly does the group communicate? How much access do we get to you, Caroline? And I think that's a really great question. All right, so number 1, there's 4 things. Number 1, we have a Facebook group. So all of us are together in a private Facebook group. It's locked, like nobody is going to, be able to see anything that you post on there. It's again, a private group where, we can all support each other. And what I think is really wonderful is that a lot of times we can think that we are alone on this journey, or, nobody's ever going through the same things that we're going through. And I think by going through a process like that and seeing that, everybody sort of struggles with not exactly the same thing, I think it manifests itself in different ways in our individual lives, but that we are all human, that we're all dealing with our own certain things in our own particular ways. And I found the Facebook group to be, a wonderful resource for that place of sisterhood, a place of support, and that kind of thing. And I'm really good at communicating through the Facebook group too. So if you post anything, if you have any questions, I promise you that I will, get back to you as soon as possible and really offer you guidance and support when you feel stuck or when you feel overwhelmed or when you're confused about something. I'm really there to support you throughout the whole entire process. And I think Facebook is just easier than having a bunch of Q&A calls, because as we see now, timing makes it really difficult for everybody from different time zones to come together and actually join these Q&A calls. And so Facebook is just an easy way for us to communicate, to throw out little questions and little nuggets as they come up. All right, and then second, I like to point out, because I know that some people have written me before, they joined the course in previous rounds, and they said, I'm a really private person. I don't feel very comfortable sharing something that is vulnerable or very private with a whole entire group of women on Facebook who I've never seen and who I don't know. And I totally respect that. I think that we all have different levels of comfort with social media, especially. And so if that's the case for you, feel free to email me your question. You can email me your question, and of course I will see your name and your information. But then I can post the question on Facebook anonymously, and I'll just say, a woman in the group asked this and this. And the reason I do that is because your questions are actually really valuable for everybody else's growth as well. And everybody else's questions are likely to be helpful for your growth. And so I like to discuss, something that comes up for you, even if you want it to be anonymous, on the Facebook group. And it's not about, making it all public and all of that kind of stuff. And but it's more about really providing that support system for everybody and opening up, helping everybody open up and maybe see things that they haven't quite thought about. And I think that's a really, really wonderful way. So if you choose to, stay private, feel free to send me an email with your questions or your hesitations or your concerns, and I'll put it on Facebook for you anonymously and answer your questions there. All right. And then the third thing is that we do have Q&A calls. We have 2 Q&A calls. One is during the implementation week, so after week 3, and the second one is on the last day of the course. And those Q&A calls, we would meet the way we're, meeting right now, where you can send me your questions beforehand, or you can ask questions throughout the call. But those are really the times to, get into specific scenarios and that kind of thing. And I schedule them to be an hour, and sometimes we'll go over a little bit if that's what what is needed. I'm not strict with timing. I really want everybody to get their questions answered and really get the support that they're looking for. And then the fourth way for us to communicate is one-on-one sessions that are available with me privately for a reduced rate for the duration of the course. So in other words, like typically my, one-on-one sessions are 45 minutes long. And while you're enrolled in the course, you can purchase those one-on-one sessions with me at a reduced rate. And that's a really, really wonderful resource. Like for example, in week 4, we talk a lot about stress and anxiety and boundaries and that kind of thing. And that the last round, like I had a couple of people who really struggled with stress and anxiety in their life, and they decided to book a one-on-one session for that week particularly, so that I could really give them that laser coaching and that additional support that they needed in order to really get the most out of the material, make it especially pertinent to their lives, and come to conclusions or solutions that really, really worked for them. And so that's just another way that you can have access to me personally and a way for me to support you. All right, question number 3. My main worry in life is that I won't find love. I so know what that feels like. And then the question continues, does the course help with this? And if so, how? And yes, it's such a good question, and I love that this came up. Love is, of course, not something we apply for or can order or even take a course in or apply for an internship in to make ourselves more applicable and more sort of like quote unquote competitive in the field, right? Like those are sort of like these typical ways of that we are taught in the Western world of like, well, how are you going to get a really good job? Well, you take all these courses and do an internship and yada, yada, yada. There are all of these sort of like steps that are outlined for us. And love is just different from that, of course. So finding love is a much softer, less concrete journey. And I honestly think that life has great and amazing and beautiful love in store for everyone who is willing to do some work on themselves. And that's really the only way I think that we can actively do anything about inviting love into our life is by working on ourselves. And so some of the questions that I think are really like some of the key sort of like thoughts that I think are really important for this are how you treat yourself is how others will treat you. So for example, if you don't treat yourself very nicely, like if you are like constantly sort of like stingy with yourself, like if you don't give yourself permission to really live in pleasure, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like financial abundance or like any of that kind of stuff, but if you just have a pleasure mindset when it comes to yourself, like you treat yourself to like a nice bath and you treat yourself to like really delicious healthy food, like that kind of thing. Unless you're generous with yourself, for example, you won't attract a man or you won't attract people into your life who are generous with you. And so another one is how you speak to yourself is how others are going to speak to you. So if you beat yourself up all the time, others are going to not respect you either and find ways to put you down. And then how you value yourself is how others will value you too. And I think those are like really important examples to keep in mind, that really the only way that we can attract amazing things into our life is by having that amazing relationship with ourselves first. So the way this pertains to falling in love and finding a really great man or changing your relationship with an existing man, the only way to really like meet and keep an amazing man, I think, is by inviting that kind of love into your life, by radiating this kind of love and self-appreciation and self-valuing out into the world first and foremost. And I'm not talking about, superficially valuing yourself or trying to be someone who you think you can value, but really get in touch with your authenticity and really seeing the beauty and value that you authentically have and always had. Is that clear? And so the busy girl is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are. And this is really, really important. And so to answer your question directly, how will the Busy Girl course help you find love? And the answer is that I will really guide you through a really powerful series of exercises that will help you get in touch with your inner self and really rediscover who you are on a completely new and profound level. The course will teach you how to commit to yourself first so that others can commit to you. It teaches you to see your inner and outer beauty and how to radiate it so that others can see it and fall in love with it, fall in love with, this quality as well. And then secondly, it will also guide you to identify what you desire in a partner. Again, not on a superficial level, but what you desire emotionally. And that's really, what matters at the end of the day. And being in touch with that and being really clear on that is really, really important when it comes to inviting that love into your life that you so desire. And all of us, I think, so desire. I've never met anybody who said they didn't actually want great love in their life. And then I should also say that, I always use a playful approach with this topic because it's so easy to make it so serious. And I don't think you can work and sweat your way to a happy outcome, and definitely not to, a happy romantic outcome. All right, I'm going to take a sip of tea because I'm a little bit sick, unfortunately. I have a little cold. New York has been so chilly. All right, so we're moving on to question 4, which is someone wrote in and said, the course sounds great, but I'm worried about money. And I've never bought anything like this before. And yes, oh my gosh, money is so tricky and definitely something that's on everyone's mind. When you're making, a purchase like this for the very first time in particular. And I think money is so related to, oh God, we could talk about money forever, but money is such a big relationship with our emotions and with our, self-worth system. It's so related to how we deal with food and all of these different areas of our life. And so I think especially, most women aren't used to spending on themselves in these ways. And I think we're much more comfortable spending money on other people or even on things like clothes that have kind of like an immediate and specific purpose, right? And I totally get that, an emotional experience like a course like the Busy Girl is way harder to sort of like quote unquote measure. But if I told you that if only you bought this one specific purse, you'd love yourself 1,000 times more. You wouldn't doubt yourself anymore, and you'd be super clear on what you want in your life and how to get it. That purse suddenly kind of doesn't seem so expensive anymore, does it? And so jokes aside, here's the deal. I get it. Investing into a course like this is an investment on many fronts. It's a financial investment, an emotional investment, and it's a time investment. And so I want you to be honest with yourself and really think about not only if you're ready to make the financial investment, but if you're actually ready to change your thought and emotional patterns. Because this is really, like the bigger thing behind this investment. And money often, serves as an excuse for something else. And so I really want you to be honest with yourself. And this is a really big deal because sometimes we have become comfortable in our current states, even if they're not really serving us. And then change, even if it's, promising to be positive change, feels scary. So there are women in the course right now who are, again, like retaking it, some put a second, some put a third time, which is something that comes, again, with the course. You can take it as many times as you want. And these women were, and some of them, wrote me before they signed up for the course, and they're like, oh, like, sounds so good, but I'm kind of hesitant to spend that kind of money because, they didn't know if this course would just be kind of like a scam and not really deliver, or if it was actually going to be something real and substantial. And what I'm really proud to say is that each of these women wrote to me later on telling me how influential the course was for them in their life and how grateful they are that they took this leap. On another note, like purely from a financial perspective, I want everyone to know that I'm also offering payment plans for the course that allow you to pay in 2 or even 3 smaller increments. And so if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of, it works with the Busy Girl promo code as well. You can just email me and I will send you all the information about it. All right, let me take another sip of tea. And let's jump into our final question. It's about career and your professional development and work. So this woman wrote, I have been frustrated with my career for so long and I feel quite hopeless. And how will this course help me? And yes, career, another obviously huge topic. But similar to finding love, making adjustments in your career that will, or like making the kinds of adjustments, I should say, in your career that will actually lead to a great outcome and a job that feels truly purposeful and fulfilling to you. What you have to do is the inner work first. And as you know by now, the Busy Girl specializes on this sort of like internal journey of self-discovery. And I'm actually not surprised at all why so many people are unhappy in their careers, because nobody ever really asks you what you want to add to the world, what you want to give, what would make you feel really fulfilled and like you really matter. I feel like everyone, just asks us ever since we were like little kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But that is a vastly different question. I think a lot of times when we ask, like, what do you want to do? Like, doing narrows the mind. It's not an expansive word. Doing is very specific, very narrow. And instead, I think we should ask ourselves more questions like, who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to become? And you can see how that involves your imagination is expansive, and really starts to get to your more sort of like gut feeling that incorporates emotion in your life. And ultimately, everything that we do is because we want to feel a certain way. Even when we say, like, I want to make like $1 million next year, it's because not because we want to, we picture like $1 million in our bank account and us working really hard and never having time for anything else. We picture ourselves having plenty of time, no more stress, amazing, beautiful dinner parties. Like with this image of like making more money, all of these other images actually come up that aren't directly related to making money. A lot of times they're actually much more related to time. All right, so now I'm getting off topic because this is a topic I'm actually really passionate about. So back to the question, you can see again that even in this discovery of what do you want to do with your career and how do you kind of like course correct it after feeling hopeless for a little while, you can tell that with the Busy Girl and with my coaching philosophy, I'm taking a softer and more feminine approach to this question of career confusion and hopelessness. Sometimes we have to, back up a little bit and rediscover ourselves freshly in order to see parts of ourselves that we may have denied for years. And so, again, it's like doing this kind of like inner work where we really ask ourselves, what brings me pleasure? What kind of things do I want to add to the world? What do I think is meaningful? What are strengths of mine that I actually really enjoy utilizing, right? Because sometimes we're good at stuff that we don't actually really like doing. Like, for example, I'll use myself. I'm really good at math and I really like numbers and I'm capable of doing like complicated spreadsheets and that kind of stuff, but I don't actually enjoy that kind of work, So sometimes we're actually good at something that we don't really like to do. And so that's important to know as well. All right, so to answer your question directly, if you're at a point where you feel hopeless already, I would really strongly recommend to back up and create space again, rather than kind of like sinking in deeper. What you need is a fresh start and a different perspective. And then that kind of shift, that's what's going to get you out of that hopelessness and frustration that kind of like is giving you tunnel vision right now, right? And the Busy Girl does exactly that. It really pulls you back out and helps you see yourself and your life again with fresh eyes so that you can actually properly reassess and redirect your life into a completely new direction with the confidence that you need to make these changes happen. All right, does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, let's see if there are any other questions. Doesn't seem to be. I'm going to give you guys a minute. right. Sounds quiet. That's fine. No, I just covered a lot. Well, if anything else comes up, you can always email me personally, and I'm happy to answer your questions via email too. That's not a problem at all. All right, so I hope that this was helpful and gave you more insight into what you can expect from the Busy Girl. I would love, love, love to have you in a course if this is calling your name. If you feel like this could be a really helpful journey for you, I would really, really love to invite you to take the leap and join us. I can pretty much guarantee that you will not regret your decision. There's so much in the course that is of such tremendous value and has been of such tremendous value to so many women. And so I would love to have you along the ride with us if that's what resonates with you, of course. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Bye.